The dining table smelled of roasted chicken, garlic bread, and my mother's overly sweet coleslaw. I had set the table myself, arranging the silverware in perfect symmetry, because honestly, hosting family dinners was one of the few joys left in my life. The house wasn't just a house to me, it was my sanctuary. After years of saving, working double shifts, and surviving the hell of my messy divorce, this house was the one thing that reminded me I was in control of my life. It was my victory. And yet that night, it all started slipping through my fingers. "Dinner looks great," my sister Maya said as she walked in late, high heels clicking against the hardwood. She didn't even offer to bring dessert, just her smug face and a bottle of cheap wine. I forced a smile. "Glad you could make it." Dad was already seated at the head of the table, scrolling on his phone. Mom fussed in the kitchen, pretending to help but really just critiquing everything I did. Typical. Halfway through dinner, when the conversation lulled, Maya cleared her throat. She pushed her hair behind her ear, a practice gesture she always used when she wanted attention. "I have some exciting news," she said, her voice dripping with drama. I rolled my eyes internally. Maya loved making grand announcements like she was the star of some reality show. "I'm moving in," she declared, grinning at me like it was the best surprise ever. The fork slipped from my hand, clattering against the plate. "I'm sorry, what?" She smirked. "Yeah, with you. This house is perfect for me right now. Closer to work. And well, you have more space than you need, don't you?" I froze, my heart pounding. Was she joking? Dad cleared his throat awkwardly. "Actually, Maya won't be living with you. She'll be living here. This isn't your house anymore." The words hit like a punch to the chest. I blinked. "What the hell do you mean it's not my house?" Mom set down her glass, avoiding eye contact. "We didn't want to tell you like this, but legally, the house is still under the family trust. It was never entirely yours." I could feel the blood drain from my face. My sanctuary. My safe space. My house. Maya smiled wider, like a cat playing with a dying mouse. "So yeah, I'll be moving in next week. I already called the movers." Everyone else carried on eating like nothing earth-shattering had just been dropped on me. And in that moment, as I sat there, staring at the people who were supposed to be my family, I made myself a silent promise. They thought they could take my home away from me. They had no idea what was coming. The sound of the moving van outside was like a jackhammer pounding directly into my chest. Boxes stacked high on the driveway, labels scribbled in Maya's neat handwriting. Kitchen Emily's stuff, living room Jessica's touch. Each label felt like a dagger, reminding me this wasn't just a casual visit. This was her declaration of conquest. I stood at the doorway, hands on my hips, trying to keep my expression neutral. Inside, my heart was a storm of rage and disbelief. How dare she waltz into my house as if she owned it? As if the countless nights I had stayed awake, planning, paying bills, cleaning, and protecting this home meant nothing. "Wow, it looks bigger in person," Maya said, her tone syrupy sweet, yet sharp with entitlement. She took a step in, dragging her designer suitcase across the polished floor. "Yeah, bigger than you'd ever deserve." I thought bitterly, but out loud I said nothing. Her husband, Tom, lugged in more boxes, and the kids, two little terrors with sticky hands and loud voices, ran ahead, claiming every corner of my living room as theirs. I took a deep breath. "Welcome," I said quietly, forcing a polite smile. Maya smiled back, but it was that smug, knowing smile. The one that always told me she felt superior, that she'd won something just by existing. She dropped her bag in the middle of the living room. "So, I was thinking about the kitchen first. You don't mind, right? I'll just rearrange a little. Make it cozier." I clenched my fists. "Rearranging? My kitchen?" "Sure," I said, my voice calm, careful. "Whatever works for you." Inside, I was boiling. "I hope you don't think I'm being unreasonable," she said later, leaning against the counter, her arms crossed. "But this house needs style. A touch of sophistication. You've lived here, what years? It's cozy, yes, but it lacks flair." I smiled, the corners of my mouth tight. "Of course, Maya. I'm sure your touch will improve it. Everyone loves a fresh perspective." Her eyes narrowed slightly, sensing the tension behind my calm facade. She didn't know I had already sold the house months ago, nor did she know the new owners would be moving in any day now. That knowledge gave me a quiet sense of power. Mom called that afternoon. Don't be difficult. Let her enjoy the house. She's family. Mom, she's invading my space, I said through gritted teeth. Oh please. She's just making it livable. You're too sensitive, Mom replied before hanging up. Dad wandered in later, peering at Maya as she rearranged the living room. I think she's doing fine, he said. Maybe you should take a step back. I nodded politely, biting my tongue. My parents had always favored Maya. This was nothing new. But they didn't know one crucial thing. This house would no longer belong to anyone in this family soon. By the evening, Maya had exhausted herself with her queenly duties. I quietly called the movers who had been scheduled weeks in advance under the guise of a routine maintenance inspection. The movers arrived, cheerful and oblivious to the tension. They had one simple task: ensure that the furniture and some boxes were temporarily moved for a staging inspection the next day. Maya watched in horror as movers shifted her carefully arranged items. Her face went pale. Wait, no, that's mine. You can't. I smiled faintly. Relax. It's just for a quick inspection. Her irritation and helplessness were delicious. That night, after the chaos had settled and Maya was asleep upstairs, I sat at my kitchen table with a cup of black coffee. I stared at the ceiling, planning every little thing she had done: the arrogant tone, the assumption that she owned the place, the way she tried to belittle me in front of her kids. Everything would be used. I whispered to myself, the corners of my lips curling into a faint smile. You want to play house? Fine. But when the truth comes out, you'll have no one to blame but yourself. And in that quiet night, I started writing the list of all the little secrets, lies and manipulations she had ever pulled. Everything from childhood grudges to adult betrayals. Everything would be used in my silent, slow, and calculated revenge. This wasn't going to be a confrontation. It was going to be a domino effect, one that would crush her, piece by piece, without me lifting a finger in anger. Because the best revenge is the kind where your enemy thinks they've already won. The morning sunlight cut through the sheer curtains, illuminating the chaos that Maya had left behind. Empty boxes were scattered across the living room. Her expensive shoes lying neatly near the entrance, and half-unpacked kitchen cabinets mocked me with their precision. I took a deep breath, savoring the quiet before the storm. Today was about patience. Revenge, after all, wasn't about confrontation. It was about strategy. Maya strutted into the kitchen, hair perfectly curled, lip gloss gleaming in the morning sun. She surveyed the scene and gave me a saccharine smile. Good morning, sis. Isn't this place just amazing? I love the way the light hits the living room in the morning. It's perfect for my yoga sessions. I smiled faintly, my voice calm. Glad you like it. The space is yours now after all. Her eyes flicked up, searching for some crack in my calm, but she found none. That only fueled her fire. I know I'm moving in, but I just want it to feel homey, you know? I hope you don't mind me rearranging a few things. Nothing drastic. Of course, I said sweetly. Do whatever makes you comfortable. And with that, she dove into the living room, moving furniture, hanging pictures, and tossing around decorative pillows. By mid-morning, she had already begun subtle digs at my life. You know, she said, perched on the arm of the sofa, I really don't understand how you managed to live here all alone. It's such a big space. Don't you get lonely? I laughed softly, a polite, hollow sound. I managed just fine. She tilted her head, frowning slightly. Well, I guess some people get used to empty walls. I couldn't. It was small, barely noticeable, but it was a jab, an attempt to make me feel inadequate in my own house. I didn't respond. I had learned early that the best way to handle Maya's manipulations was to appear calm, even submissive. The storm inside me, though, was brewing stronger with every word. I began quietly recording her every action. Her rearranging my furniture, using my kitchen utensils without asking, leaving sticky fingerprints on my newly polished countertops. Each note, each photograph, each video clip would be used later. I didn't want confrontation now. I wanted evidence. Maya, of course, had no clue. She prattled on to her husband, Tom, boasting about how she was finally taking over the house. She doesn't even know what's coming, I thought to myself, smiling faintly. Around noon, the delivery man arrived with a set of custom shelves that Maya had ordered without consulting me. I watched as she tried to hand him cash from my wallet, which she had found lying carelessly on the counter. Maya, I said, approaching. You don't need to pay. I'll cover it. She looked at me like I had insulted her. Cover it? But it's my furniture. Sure, I said calmly. If you like, but technically, you're still using my funds right now. So let's keep things simple. Her jaw tightened. She tried to argue, but the delivery man cleared his throat, giving her a polite but questioning look. She stomped her foot, muttering under her breath, and stormed upstairs. Inside, I chuckled. The first domino had fallen. Later that day, Mom called. Her voice, always sharp, was laced with that condescending warmth that Maya loved. Don't be difficult, Mom said. Let her enjoy the house. You're supposed to be the bigger person. I forced patience into my tone. Mom, she's not enjoying it. She's taking over. This isn't just a visit. She's moving in permanently. Mom scoffed. She's family. You should help her. The line went dead before I could respond. I stared at the phone, and then threw it on the counter. Once the chaos had settled, I retreated to my bedroom. I needed a plan. Maya was overconfident, careless, and utterly unaware of what was about to hit her. I pulled out a notebook and began listing everything. All the times she had tried to manipulate me growing up. All the lies she had told my parents. Every moment she had taken credit for my efforts. The things she had done in the last 2 days alone. Stealing utensils, misusing my money, rearranging my furniture. Each item was a building block. Each action could be used to demolish her carefully crafted image. This was going to be fun. By nightfall, Maya had settled in, convinced she had already won. She walked around the house like a queen inspecting her kingdom. Completely unaware of the storm, I was quietly assembling behind closed doors. I made a note in my notebook. Patience. Let her think she's in control. The house, the family, her life, all will crumble. But not tonight. Tonight, she sleeps, unaware that every smile, every brag, every condescending remark she makes is being saved for the perfect moment. As I drifted to sleep, I imagined her face when the first domino finally fell. The shock, the betrayal, the humiliation. She won't see it coming. She'll never see it coming. And in the silence of the night, I finally felt a flicker of satisfaction. Revenge isn't just about action. It's about control. And I had complete control. The house had never felt so foreign. Maya walked through each room like a queen surveying conquered territory, snapping her fingers at delivery men, yelling instructions at contractors she had hired without asking, and tossing my carefully arranged decor around like it was worthless. Can we move this table here? It'll make the living room look bigger, she said, glaring at me as if I were too blind to see it myself. I forced a smile, keeping my voice calm. Sure, Maya. Whatever works best for the space. Inside, I was seething. Every piece of furniture she touched, every wall she repainted, every expensive rug she trampled upon. It was all a provocation. But I didn't respond. Patience was my weapon now. I knew she thrived on attention and confrontation. Giving her that would only make her stronger. Instead, I documented everything. Pictures, videos, even audio of her yelling at the workers, and insulting my taste in front of the delivery men. Every single instance would be ammunition later. Maya had convinced herself that she was the rightful owner now. She bragged to her friends over the phone. I finally have control. She can't stop me. This house is mine. I let her talk. Every boast, every smug laugh, every careless word she uttered was recorded. I smiled silently, knowing that the walls of her empire were already cracking. By evening, Mom and Dad arrived unexpectedly. Maya, in her element, began showing off her new arrangements. She strutted around like the house was hers, making little remarks about how I had always been so careless with my things. See, this is how it's done, Maya said, dusting off a shelf she had just rearranged. Don't worry, I'm just trying to help you upgrade your life. I remained silent, sipping my coffee and taking mental notes. My parents exchanged uneasy glances. For the first time, I could see the cracks forming in Maya's polished image. I had already secretly contacted the landlord and explained the situation. The house technically belonged to someone else now, and Maya had no legal right to make permanent changes or claim ownership. The landlord arrived under the guise of a routine inspection. Seeing him, Maya's smug expression faltered. "Everything okay?" I asked innocently. Maya tried to assert control. "Of course. I'm just making sure this place looks presentable." The landlord raised an eyebrow. "Actually, I need to review some paperwork regarding ownership. Seems there are some updates you might not be aware of." Her face drained of color. She glanced at me, panic creeping into her eyes. I smiled faintly. No words. No confrontation. Just control through knowledge. As the day ended, I retreated to my room, my notebook open. Every insult, every action, every careless word of hers was documented. My plan was simple. Let her dig her own grave while I watched silently. Maya thought she was winning. She didn't see the trap I was setting, the web of evidence I was weaving, or the dominoes that were about to fall. And when they did, she would wish she had never stepped foot in this house. By the fifth morning, Maya had fully settled into what she believed was her kingdom. The living room smelled faintly of her expensive candles. Her shoes were lined perfectly near the entrance, and the coffee table bore the scratches of her carelessness. She walked around confidently, phone in hand, bragging to friends about how she had finally taken control. But behind her perfect smiles and commanding tone, cracks were forming, cracks she didn't see coming. I invited a few family friends over that afternoon, under the guise of a casual lunch. Maya, ever eager to show off, was practically vibrating with excitement. She made sure everyone saw her reorganized living room, pointed out her decorating genius, and casually made remarks about how careless I had been in the past. I smiled politely, offering drinks, while my mind worked on the plan. One by one, I began dropping subtle hints about the truth. It's funny how some things get lost when people move in without permission. Like these receipts I found, I said, casually showing a folder with documented evidence of her manipulations and small thefts. It's interesting how the movers and delivery people all have stories about the confusion here. I added, letting the right eyebrows raise among the friends. Maya's eyes flickered nervously, realizing I was not silent anymore. She tried to laugh it off. "Oh, don't believe everything you hear. I'm just energetic." But her tone trembled slightly. She glanced at my folder of evidence, then at the curious faces of family friends. That was all it took. The first domino had fallen. Mom, who had been blissfully ignorant of the tension, began noticing inconsistencies. She frowned at Maya when the sister claimed certain purchases had been made by her, only for me to pull out proof. Dad, who had favored Maya silently, was now confused. "Wait, so these were your receipts?" he asked, looking at me. "Yes," I said calmly, voice steady. "All of it documented. Everything she's done, every claim, every manipulation I've recorded." Maya tried to protest, but her words sounded hollow in the room filled with eyes now quietly judging her. Next, I used social proof. A few neighbors had noticed the changes, the loud arguments, and her careless behavior. I casually mentioned the confusion she had caused in front of them, without over-explaining, just enough to plant seeds of doubt. By evening, whispers had started. Friends and family now looked at Maya with suspicion. Her carefully crafted image of the perfect, assertive sister began to crumble in real time. Maya tried to salvage her reputation. She called her friends, texted parents, and even attempted to guilt-trip me. "She's exaggerating everything. I'm just trying to make the house feel like home. You can't just ruin me like this." Each attempt, however, made her look more desperate. People who had admired her started questioning her motives. I stayed calm. I didn't argue, I didn't yell. I let the evidence speak for itself. Every glance, every doubt, every question from friends and family was like another brick added to the wall trapping her. I had always believed that the best revenge was silent, methodical, and complete. And now, watching her panic silently, I felt the first real thrill of victory. That night, I sat alone in my room, reviewing the events. The dominoes had begun to fall, but the real destruction was yet to come. I wrote in my notebook, She thinks she can manipulate, lie, and claim this house. She's wrong. Every lie, every arrogance, every theft, it's all on record. And when the final domino falls, she won't just lose the house, she'll lose her pride, her friends, and the little kingdom she built around herself. I smiled. The endgame was near. By the 6th day of chaos, Maya's confidence had completely crumbled. The once commanding queen of the house now tiptoed through the rooms, double-checking receipts, texts, and furniture placement as if waiting for the next strike. Her friends had begun distancing themselves, whispering behind her back about her arrogance and manipulations. Even Mom and Dad, who had initially favored her, were now confused and cautious. The balance of power had shifted, and I didn't need to lift a finger to enforce it. The landlord had called again that morning. I had spoken to him privately before, ensuring all ownership paperwork, leases, and legal notices were in order. Now in front of Maya, he casually mentioned, "Just so you know, Ms. Maya, these changes to the property aren't authorized. The house has a new owner, and any further renovations or personal claims could have legal consequences." Maya's face paled. I didn't realize. I intervened quietly, voice calm but firm. "Actually, everything is already documented. All changes, all claims, all expenditures. You don't own anything here, legally or morally." Her eyes widened as panic set in. Later that afternoon, I called for a family meeting. Everyone gathered, sensing the tension in the air. I laid out the evidence systematically. Receipts of her unauthorized purchases, photos and videos of her aggressive behavior, text messages where she manipulated friends and family. Maya tried to interject. "That's not fair. You're twisting everything." I cut her off, voice steady, almost cold. "Twisting? No, Maya. I'm just showing the truth. Every claim, every insult, every act of deception has been recorded. This isn't personal, it's factual." Mom's eyes welled with tears, but not from anger at me. She finally understood the pattern of manipulation she had ignored for years. Dad looked stunned, whispering to Mom, We didn't realize." Maya's attempts to explain herself fell flat. The room, once her stage, had turned into a courtroom, and she was on trial. Friends and neighbors who had visited over the past week quietly expressed their disapproval. Every boast she had made, every manipulation she had attempted, now became evidence against her. I didn't know you were like this," one neighbor said quietly to Mom. Maya's face burned crimson. She tried to defend herself, but no one believed her anymore. By evening, I had already arranged for the house to be legally reclaimed by the new owners. All her belongings were boxed and labeled for removal. She stormed into the kitchen, voice shaking, panic evident. "This isn't fair. I lived here, I looked at her, calm, serene, almost cold. "It's called consequences, Maya. You wanted to play the queen, manipulate everyone, and take what wasn't yours. Now the rules have changed." Her voice faltered. She realized she had lost not just the house, but the image she had carefully crafted for years. That I didn't gloat, I didn't yell. I watched her pack her things, her pride shattered. The satisfaction was deep, silent, and complete. She had underestimated me, assumed I'd remain passive, and now she faced the full weight of her own arrogance. As she left, the house quiet once more, I whispered to myself. Silent, calculated, complete. That's the way revenge should be. And for the first time in weeks, I felt a peace I hadn't felt in years. The morning was quiet, almost eerily so. Sunlight streamed through the windows, highlighting the now empty living room where Maya's footprints had been etched just days before. The house felt like mine again, not just in ownership, but in peace. I walked slowly through each room, touching the furniture, the walls, the countertop I had polished countless times. It was a ritual, a reclaiming of what had always been mine. Not through confrontation, not through yelling, but through patience, strategy, and quiet resilience. Maya had returned briefly to collect her final belongings, her face pale and tight with humiliation. She tried once more to assert control, voice trembling. "This isn't over. I held up a hand, calm, collected. "It is over, Maya. Not because I said so, but because the truth always wins. Every lie you told, every manipulation you attempted, it's all exposed. And now the world knows who you really are. Her eyes flickered with anger, disbelief, and fear. I didn't need to say more. The weight of her own actions had done the rest. Mom and Dad stood quietly behind me. There were no dramatic speeches, just silent acknowledgement. Mom gave a small, approving nod, a wordless thank you, that carried more weight than anything she could have said. Even the neighbors and friends who had witnessed Maya's arrogance and deceit now avoided her gaze, leaving her isolated. Her reputation, carefully built over years, lay in ruins. As Maya loaded her last box into the car, she muttered, almost under her breath, "You'll regret this." I smiled faintly. Regret? No, Maya. You'll regret underestimating me. That was your only mistake. Then as she drove away, I revealed a final twist. The house wasn't just legally reclaimed. It had been sold months ago, with the proceeds safely tucked away for me. The house she had believed she conquered was gone forever. Not a confrontation, not a fight, just the ultimate, silent reversal of power. I walked back inside, closing the door behind me. The house was mine again, and for the first time in years, truly mine. I poured a cup of coffee, sat by the window and watched the sunset. No words, no yelling, no dramatic gestures, just quiet satisfaction. The revenge had been complete, calculated, and utterly devastating. Maya had learned what I already knew. Underestimating someone who quietly plans can be fatal. And in the peace of my reclaimed home, I whispered to myself, silent, methodical, complete. That's the only revenge worth taking.